What's up, Heckling fandom? They've left me by myself. I've got the keys to the castle and nobody to stop me. So it's time for garbage time. Welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. I am your lone host today, JJ. The other gentlemen weren't able to make it, and they have been busting their butts all week. So I'm here to step up for the preview. So I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I sure did. Got to see a lot of family and friends. So it was a good time. So we also had some good football, and the Cowboys and Giants game, John's Giants, set the NFL viewing record for a regular season game. So football is trending up, and hopefully your fantasy team is too. But we're going to go ahead and recap those games really quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'm going to take a look at the Thanksgiving games. So the first game was Buffalo at Detroit. Buffalo won a nail-biter, another nail-biter for Buffalo. It seems like you only have to watch the last 5 minutes of the games these days. But Josh Allen had a good game, fantasy-wise, 250 and 2 scores, and he ran for almost 80 yards and another touchdown. So he did Josh Allen things. Diggs started out slow, but wound up with 8 for 77 and 1 score, so that was good for you. And then Isaiah McKenzie had his best game of the year, was second on the team in targets with 10. And Gabe Davis was a extreme letdown, another bust game for him, 4 for 38. They really just have not found a way to consistently utilize him, which is a shame with the expectations we had for this year. Singletary was also kind of a letdown. I think he had about 9 points, no score. I was hoping he'd get in. I played him in a lot of DFS lineups, but it didn't materialize. And then on the Lions side, Jamal Williams continues to be a goal line vulture. Not even a vulture, I guess, because it's basically his job. He got in for a score with 66 rushing yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like last year, is on a tear in the second half of the season. 9 catches, 122 yards, and a score, which was great. And I don't know what the Lions are doing with DeAndre Swift, but maybe they should consider moving him because it seems like he's healthy now. And they're just rolling with Jamal Williams and giving Justin Jackson a disgusting amount of touches. So I benched DeAndre Swift in my Dynasty League, and I think he scored 9 or 10 points, so I'm not too hurt about that. Goff played well, 240, 2 scores. You probably weren't playing him unless you're in super flex, but he was certainly serviceable. That was really it for that one. Giants Cowboys storyline for me in this one. Tony Pollard was a big letdown. He could not get going. The Giants really bottled him up, and it was Zeke who was a more effective runner, which has not been the story of the season, but he actually had a decent game, including a 20-plus yard run, which he very rarely, if ever, has. So great game for Zeke. Pollard actually outcarried him by 2, but Zeke had 32 more yards, and Zeke had the touchdown. So, and then on the receiving front, CeeDee Lamb had another good game. So close to having a touchdown, but it was taken away on a close call on the goal line. And Michael Gallup got going a little bit, 5 for 63, but you probably didn't play him. And the Giants, Saquon, 15 points, 15 PPR points. Again, was bottled up in the run game. Tough defense for the Cowboys, but they've been had by the run a little bit, so that was kind of surprising to see. And Daniel Jones did Daniel Jones things, had around 80 quarterback rating. And the Giants don't look quite as hot as they did to start the year, so we'll see if they can hold on and maybe make a late playoff push. Last game was the most exciting game, I'd say. Vikings. I think everyone was afraid of Justin Jefferson maybe getting bottled up by Billy B, but the Pats could not stop him. He had 9 for 139 and a score. So, he did Justin Jefferson things. It was Dalvin Cook that was completely shut down. 22 carries for 42 yards. And then Thielen had a nice game, 9 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. So that obviously means that Kirk Cousins had a good game. He had 299 yards and 3 scores. So very good day for the Vikings. And Ryan's favorite QB, Mac Jones, had a career high in passing yards, 382 and 2 scores. So he had a really good game, played well. And Damian Harris once again got hurt. So Ramondre Stevenson stepped up, had 9 catches for 76 yards. Only carried the ball 7 times, but was effective with him. But again, it's through the air where he racked up his points. So Mac really spread it around to Aguilar, Parker, Stevenson, Henry, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne all had at least 3 catches. So a good game for the Patriots offensively, but they came up short. So that was really it for Thanksgiving. They were all pretty competitive, fun games, so that was cool. And I'm going to get rolling now. I got some family stuff to do, so we're going to get right into the news.
News updates.
All right, so the big news this week is there's a lot of turnover at quarterback. Zach Wilson was benched. I'm not sure if they touched on it in the first episode. I know they didn't in the waivers one really too much. So Mike White this week is viable. The Bears are going to be without their Pro Bowl caliber safety, Jaquan Brisker, and without their slot corner, Kyler Gordon. There is a vast opportunity for Mike White to throw for about 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So if you're in a 2 QB league and your quarterback has a tough matchup, I would not be that afraid to play Mike White in this game. I really think the Jets are going to be able to do what they want offensively. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to. Another move at quarterback, we had Davis Mills. Finally, they pulled the plug on him, putting in Kyle Allen to start. I think the Texans are super embracing the tank, and they really want that first pick. So it's basically a lock that CJ Stroud or Bryce Young are going to play for the Texans next year, as they are on track for that first pick. Joe Mixon is out with a concussion. We have the return of Kyler Murray, finally. He's got enough Warzone dubs. And Hollywood Brown is also expected back, so that's going to be interesting to see the split between Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins, who it'll be interesting to see who has more targets in this one. Also, the OBJ watch is still in effect. We've heard that the Giants and the Cowboys are the favorites, but we've also heard other teams like the Bills in the mix. So it'll be interesting to see. That report came out that he's expected to be ready to play in December, at the end of December. So it seems like he's definitely going to go to one of the playoff teams. So my guess is Dallas, or I don't know, the Bills or Chiefs, a coin flip, but one of those. I don't think he's going to go back to New York. Could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to go back. So that's really all the news I had. The injuries I'll get into when we go through each of the games here, when I go through each of the games here. So who is this? And of course, Joe is here. Glad to see we only have one ghost of Garbage Time Fantasy Football. Welcome, the beast of all. Welcome, the best of all future Thanksgiving episodes. Okay. All right. So let's get into the preview. Before I do the preview, I really should mention, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe this video on YouTube. We can be found pretty much anywhere there's a podcast: Spotify, Apple, Simplecast, Iheartradio, Pandora. The list goes on. You can probably find our dumbasses anywhere. So please give us a review, talk shit to us. We also have a website, garbagetimef.com. You can leave us a voicemail if you give a shitty take, and you can call us and rip us a new one. So we always appreciate that and welcome the feedback. Last announcement, we still do have our contest going on. We have the signed Miles Sanders card that is up for grabs at the end of the fantasy season. We're going to raffle it off. So we already got quite a few entries. So if you want to be entered into the contest, like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave us an Apple review and comment that you're a member of the Heckling fandom, and you are in the sweepstakes for that card. So we'll be raffling that off, like I said, at the end of the fantasy season. We're going to draw it out of Ron's crusty old Giants hat, all class as usual here. So let's get into these games. So first game on my list, of course, is the Bears. This is probably going to be the most unfun game of the season for me to watch. So big storyline in this one is the quarterback position. So we really wanted to see Zach Wilson and Justin Fields square off and, see these 2021 quarterbacks clash. But it's not looking like that's going to happen. Obviously, Zach Wilson is benched and is going to be inactive. Mike White is going to start for the Jets. And so let me cover the Jets side first. Start your Jets. I like Michael Carter this week as a play versus the Bears' terrible run defense. I like Garrett Wilson to get loose. Elijah Moore, he hasn't done anything, but if there's a game for him to do it, this is the one. The Bears have their slot corner out. It's just ripe for the plucking. The yards, the touchdowns, everything versus Bears defense. So this is a great matchup for the Jets. And also Corey Davis is expected to be back too. So they're going to have their full arsenal for Mike White. I would not hesitate to play your Jets if you have them. On the Bears side, like I mentioned, the quarterback story, Justin Fields. All the beat reporters don't think he's going to play. I don't think he should play. Why risk injuring your franchise quarterback further when your season you're not going to have a chance to compete this year? They're also in tank mode, so I really think you see Trevor Siemian. The impact that is going to have, I think it's actually an uptick for like someone like Chase Claypool. I think he's going to get more looks. Obviously, they're not going to be able to call a designed runs with Trevor Siemian. So you're going to see Claypool and Mooney probably have an uptick in targets. And then David Montgomery is probably going to have 25 carries in this one unless the game gets out of hand. So for your Bears players, you can start Mooney as a flex and you can start David Montgomery as an RB2. That's fine. Let's see. We got a comment here. Connor. Should I start Kamara or Keenan Allen at flex? Ooh, that's a tough one. You must have a good team if you're making that decision. So we have San Francisco is playing, or New Orleans is playing San Francisco. That's a really tough matchup. The Chargers are playing Arizona, who has a terrible pass defense, and they're not going to have the Chargers aren't going to have Mike Williams. So with the way things have gone lately, I would probably go with Keenan Allen if I'm picking between those two. I think he's going to be able to do whatever he wants with those Arizona Cardinals DBs, and then obviously no Mike Williams. So I think Palmer and Keenan Allen will have a nice day. So I would play Keenan Allen over Alvin Kamara. Let's see. So that's all I had for the Jets and Bears game. I'm picking the Jets in that one for obvious reasons. All right, next game. Falcons Commanders. Not a ton of fantasy superstars in this one. On the Falcons side, pick your poison at running back. You got Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier. I don't think you're considering Caleb Huntley. He is on the injury report and kind of the third fiddle, I think. So Patterson is probably 1A and Algier is 1B. Both are going to get touches in this one. If you're in a tough spot, you can play them. But that Commanders D-line has been nasty lately, and they have really shut down the run. So it's a dangerous game to play. Falcons pass catchers. We saw Kyle Pitts go on IR this week. So it's going to be Drake London and then the cast of practice squad receivers. So you would think Drake London would be force-fed targets. I think he's definitely viable now without Pitts there. So I think he's going to be a big part of the game plan. You can definitely play him as a flex this week for sure. And on the Commander side of the ball, Taylor Heineke was banged up this week, but he's going to be out there. Both Commanders running backs are viable. I think Robinson and Antonio Gibson, this is a good matchup. I like the matchup a lot, actually. So I would play either comfortably as an RB2 flex type. And then you're starting McLaurin if you have him, and Dotson is a flyer flex. He has not had that chemistry with Heineke like he had with Wentz, but he's super talented. And this is another good matchup. So that's really all I have for this one. Logan Thomas is questionable. He's sick and has ribs injury. So you probably weren't playing Logan Thomas, but he started to get going last week. But I just wanted to point that out. I probably wouldn't play him, but he's on the report. I am taking the Commanders in this one. Chugging right along. We got Denver. Let's ride to Carolina. Denver only a 1-point favorite versus the Panthers, who are rolling with Sam Darnold in this one. So real tough matchup for the Panthers side of things. DJ Moore, we've seen good chemistry with him and Sam Darnold last year. So I think that's a good thing for him, but this is a really tough matchup. So, he's a flex play. He can get loose at any time, and Darnold loves him. But Pat Surtain and the Broncos is a tough matchup for any receiver. So I'd consider DJ Moore a flex. Your running backs, Foreman is not bad, but let's see. We got another question coming in from TJ. Should I drop Khalil Herbert for J.K. Dobbins? That's tough. Their timelines are similar. I wouldn't have a problem doing that. Dobbins should come back before Herbert. He's been out quite a while. So I don't know if the Ravens are going to try and save him for the playoffs or what, but Dobbins should be back. In the Bears' end-of-season schedule, if you're going to go into fantasy playoffs, it's really tough. You got the Bills and the Eagles, and that would be around the time that Herbert would be maybe eligible to come back. So those are really tough matchups. And Herbert had really slowed down with the way Fields was running. So I think I would do that. And if you don't have an IR spot. But yeah, I would do that. I think I would. So then we were on Denver, Carolina. So Carolina side, we were talking about Deontay Foreman. You can play him. It's another terrible matchup. I probably wouldn't unless it was an emergency. I wouldn't play Foreman, but you can do it if you're in a pinch. And that's really it for Carolina. I'm not playing Terrace Marshall. I'm not playing anyone else besides probably DJ Moore. Denver side of things, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are both out, so you're firing up Cortland Sutton. Russ, he's not rostered in like most of my leagues. That's just the point we're at. So I'm not playing him. Carolina at home, their defense has actually been kind of sneaky. So, I think they actually could be a decent DFS play, Carolina defense. And then Denver, the running backs, obviously, they cut Melvin Gordon and Chase Edmonds is out. So it's going to be the Latavius Murray show, I think. So look for him to get 20 touches, I would say. If you have Latavius Murray, I would start him for sure. This is a real tough game to pick. I'm picking the Broncos in a disgusting, low-scoring, boring game. So that's where we're at. Oh, guy I forgot to mention, Greg Dulcich, 100% viable, especially with Jeudy and Hamler out. I think he could be a top 5 tight end this week, so I would definitely play Dulcich if you have him. Next game, so this game inspired the thumbnail, the classic pink Miami theme. We got the Dolphins and Texans playing. So Houston is also without Derek Stingley. So you got these Miami receivers ready to go versus a bottom 3 defense in the league. This just has massacre written all over it. There's no reason that this shouldn't be an absolute slaughter. Also, just in a football sense, Houston next week is their season Super Bowl when they play against Deshaun Watson and the Browns. So I really think they could overlook the Dolphins. So this one has potential to get super ugly. Also, we talked about how Davis Mills got benched. So it's going to be Kyle Allen versus the Dolphins. Start your Dolphins. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua, 100% slam dunk starts. And then Raheem Mostert is doubtful, so he's not going to play. Jeff Wilson should have a great matchup this week. So if you have him, I would start him 100%. On the Houston side, if you got Dameon Pierce, you can play him. Miami can be had by the run. I think that's going to be the strategy for them. They're going to try and get him 25, 30 touches. And then Brandon Cooks, if you want to roll the dice, they're going to be down in this one. So Kyle Allen's going to have to throw. So the targets are going to be there. We'll just see if he can do anything with him. But I think he's in consideration for a flex. So I definitely got Miami in this one. I don't think I really need to spend a lot more time on it. Start your Dolphins 100% this has to be the blowout of the week, right? Or did I just jinx it? Next game. Rolling right through it here. Tampa Bay versus Cleveland. So this is probably Jacoby Brissett's last start for Cleveland as Deshaun Watson comes back next week. He's practicing with the team. Injury-wise in this one, there's not a whole lot to report. Russell Gage will be out, but you're not starting Russell Gage anyways. But Leonard Fournette is doubtful. So the emergence of Rachaad White seems inevitable. He had 100-plus yards in the Bucs last game versus Seahawks in Germany. Looked great. Really started to look like he's comfortable in the offense. Really starts to seem like Brady trusts him. So I definitely like Rachaad White if you have him. Cleveland can be had by the run for sure. So I would start Rachaad White if you have him. Tampa side, you're starting your regulars. Brady's playing better. There was a time when you didn't know if you could start him. I think you can start him in this one. Godwin, you're playing. Evans, you're playing. And Rachaad White, like I said, you're playing. Cleveland, start Nick Chubb. You're not playing Kareem Hunt. And you're starting Amari Cooper. Peoples-Jones, if you're in a pinch, you can play in the flex. I know he's been productive lately, but I just can't bring myself to trust him week to week yet. But I like Amari Cooper in this one. Is this game in Tampa or Cleveland? Because that storyline it's in Cleveland. So Amari Cooper should be a dog. He's the man in Cleveland. So that's all I have for this one. That's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. I like Tampa Bay in this one coming off a bye. They really have started to play better offensively and defensively, obviously, and they've had an extra week to prepare for this one. Moving on, next game, another part of the title here, Cincinnati versus Tennessee. So we already talked about how Joe Mixon is out, but it seems like Jamar Chase is going to come back for this one as Cincinnati tries to get hot for the playoffs again. So obviously if you have Jamar Chase, you're playing him. Love this matchup. It's a great first matchup to come back to. Tennessee has been nasty versus the run, but they can definitely be had in the air. We saw what Mahomes did to him a couple of weeks ago. This is a great matchup for Burrow and those Bengals receivers. So you're obviously firing them up like you would anyways. So Higgins, Chase, Boyd, you can play in the flex if you need to. And then if you want Samaje Perine on the waiver wire, you can start him in this one because he is pretty active in the pass game. So I think he probably grabs 4 or 5 balls in this one. Tennessee side, you're starting Derrick Henry. And Ryan Tannehill has actually been sneaky good. He lit up the Packers last week on Thursday Night Football. So he has been really good. So he's settling in. He's starting to get healthy again. The play action with Henry's flowing again. Treylon Burks started playing good. So I think if you have Ryan Tannehill in a 2 QB league, he's definitely viable. And I would not hesitate to play him. And then Treylon Burks, like I mentioned, flex consideration, he's really started to play good. And we know Eli Apple's not going to cover him. So if you got the guts to do it, send it. I got some really tough game. Where's this one? I really was bad about saying which one was home and away. This game is in Tennessee. But I just like the matchup too much for the Bengals. I think Burrow's going to have a big day. I'm taking the Bengals in this one. Yeah, so next game, another AFC matchup. Baltimore Ravens play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Injury-wise, Gus Edwards is practicing fully, so he should be back this week. Lamar had an injury scare earlier in the week. He had a hip, which he's had in the past, but he's good to go now, practicing fully. And then Baltimore, still banged up pass catchers. They have Duvernay and Isaiah Likely, both questionable, both really banged up. So Mark Andrews could have 20 targets in this game. I really think Baltimore is going to lean into the run. So the running back situation is a mess with Gus Edwards coming back. Kenyon Drake, Gus Edwards. I would try to avoid it. I mean, one of them is probably going to score, but like I said with Atlanta, pick your poison. It's just a terrible situation. Justice Hill has been in the mix the last couple weeks too. So I'm not trying to play any Baltimore running back this week. Yeah, you're starting Lamar, you're starting Mark Andrews. Other than that, there's not really anyone I'm excited to play for the Ravens. So on the Jacksonville side, Trevor Lawrence, 2 QB. I wouldn't play him in a single QB league. Ravens defense has been playing really well lately, so a tough matchup for them. If you have Christian Kirk, you're playing him. If you have Travis Etienne, you're playing him. Other than that, nobody on Jacksonville I really want to touch. I think just those two. I got Baltimore in this one. So, and I see we have 5 viewers. So if you guys have any start-sit questions, you want to jump in, send anything in, and I'll pull it up and read it, answer any questions. We appreciate you being here. Please, this is poverty. Please like this video. If we get like 10 likes, we feel like celebrities, so we really appreciate it. Next game, we're getting into the afternoon games. Chargers at Cardinals. We talked about it in the news earlier. Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown are both expected back. So I don't know what that split is going to look like with Hopkins and Hollywood, but it's a really good matchup for them. So I think both are viable. Rondale Moore is out in this one, so the targets are there. And we got another question coming in. Penguin02 says, would you start Kamara or Rashad White if Lenny is out? So Penguin, I touched on this a little earlier, but I think Lenny is going to be out with that hip pointer. And this is a decent matchup for Tampa Bay. I think I would play Rashad White over Kamara. Kamara is facing San Francisco, who is a top 5 run defense. And Kamara has just not been featured enough for the Saints. He's not looked as good. And they also said this week that Taysom Hill is not being featured enough. So that is like just terrible news for Kamara. I personally, that's so scary to say, but I would probably play Rashad White in a better matchup, better situation, playing better than Kamara this week. And you must have a good team if you can put Kamara on your bench. So props to you. You're probably going to the playoffs. Oh, here we go, Joe. JJ, the celebrity of Garbage Time Fantasy Football. Thoughts on Slayton going forward rest of the season? I love his upside. Slayton's not bad. So the thing with that is OBJ watch. If he goes back to the Giants, that could affect him. But they just have nobody else to catch the ball. So I think, I think he's definitely viable as a flex going on in the season. Penguin comes back and counters. What about James Conner versus Rashad White? Man, that's tough. That's a good matchup for James Conner. I'd like to hear the rest of your team. You must have some really good wide receivers that you're playing to have these 3 backs. Oh, that's tough. I might play James Conner. I think I would play James Conner. I mean, these two in my weekly rankings are probably right next to each other. It's a coin flip. I think Conner just is a little bit more a little bit more proven than White, but I love the matchup for both of them, and I don't think you can go wrong. Maybe start them both. I don't know who else you got on your team, but I like them both this week a lot. So back to the Cardinals-Chargers. We just touched on Arizona, Hollywood, and Hopkins. I think you're playing them both. I mean, you saw what Hollywood did with Kyler earlier in the season. If you got Murray, you're probably playing them in this one too. Chargers defense has been terrible. And then on the Chargers side, you're playing your guys. You're playing Eckler. You're playing Keenan Allen. You're playing Herbert. With Mike Williams out, I think Josh Palmer is definitely viable too. He's had a really good game last week. And this is a great matchup. And when Mike Williams misses, he really shines. So I like Josh Palmer a lot this week. And I think that's it. James Conner, we just touched on. I like him a lot. So, yeah, I got the Chargers. They got to have it. So do the Cardinals. But I think Cliff Kingsbury is a bad coach. So I like the Chargers. Next game. I'm really excited about this game for really one player, but we got the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Seattle Seahawks. Big injury in this one. Josh Jacobs is questionable with a calf injury, so keep an eye on that. If he's out, I have no idea what they're going to do. We've seen Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah get touches, and last week Zamir White was inactive. So that's a dangerous game to play, but somebody random on the Raiders is going to have 15 touches if Jacobs misses. So obviously if he doesn't miss, you're playing him, but that's the main storyline injury-wise in this one. You're starting Devontae Adams 100%. Foster Moreau is a fill-in tight end that you can start weekly. On Seattle's side, everyone's pretty healthy, so they're coming off a bye. They got Ken Walker is the guy I was talking about. I'm very excited about this game for him. He really could have 200 yards rushing inside in Vegas. Oh, no, sorry, it's in Seattle. Anyway, either way, he's going to have a big game in this one, I think. I'm going to say 2 touchdowns, 150 yards. Love him. I'm playing him in DFS everywhere. So love Ken Walker. And you're playing your Seattle receivers, Lockett and Metcalf and Geno. This is a good matchup for Geno again. He's produced all year. So if your quarterback has a tough matchup, I think you can definitely play him. And not really much else to cover in this one. I got Seattle at home in this one. I think they get the run game going. Moving on. I need to stop saying Moving on. Rams, Chiefs. At the start of this season, this would have been one of the games of the year that people had circled, but the Rams have been terrible. So Stafford is not going to play this week. So Bryce Perkins is expected to make his first career start, even though John Wolford was a full participant yesterday. Perkins should be in line to start. He is a scrambling quarterback. I'm not playing him anywhere. The Chiefs defense has also been playing a little bit better. So I don't know what kind of impact he's going to have on the pass catchers. Allen Robinson's also banged up. I probably wouldn't play him. This is a terrible script for the Rams. I mean, they're going to have to throw the whole game, but it's not a good outlook. Tyler Higbee's also banged up. Kupp's obviously on IR, so I really am not comfortable starting Rams pass catchers or running backs. Like Kyron Williams is going to be involved. Cam Akers is going to be involved. No Henderson there anymore, but pick your poison in this one. If you're desperate, you can try and spin the wheel and pick the Rams guy that's going to score a touchdown, but I'm not excited about any Rams player this week. Kansas City side, Kadarius Toney hurt himself last week because that's what he does. But Juju is coming back from his concussion, so I think you're plugging him right in if you have him. Him and Mahomes have really got that chemistry going. Rams defense is not as scary as it once was. I think Mahomes can definitely have his way with them this week. So obviously if you have Mahomes, the QB1, you're playing him. You're playing Kelsey. You're playing Juju if you have him. And then if you need to, you can play MVS but that's just about it. Obviously, taking the Chiefs in this game. The Rams are really down bad, and their first round pick is going to the Lions, which is not good. So, moving on, we got San Francisco versus New Orleans. Jarvis Landry was banged up, but I think he's going to play. Only injury on the San Francisco side to keep an eye on is Debo. Hamstring is still bothering him. He's been limited in practice all week. So I would keep an eye on that. Obviously, the emergence of Brandon Ayuk is real. So if Debo is out, wheels up again for Ayuk. He's really coming on in the second half of the season. I actually traded a first-round pick for him in a dynasty league, and I was kind of nervous about it. I didn't know if it was too much, but I'm pretty pleased that I did it. It won me my week last week. Kittle is playing good too. I would play George Kittle, obviously. Jimmy G, streamable QB if you need a QB2 in a super flex or 2-quarterback league. Running back, obviously you're playing Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell, Saints run defense is up and down. On paper, they're supposed to be great, but they've been had a couple times this year. So I'd consider Elijah Mitchell in the flex, or if you're in a tough spot running back wise, he's going to get his touches. Shanahan really stuck to the 50-50 split like he talked about as far as carries. So he's going to get work. New Orleans side, again, I've had a couple of questions come in about Alvin Kamara. That's a really bad matchup for him here. And with Dalton starting, I thought there would be a lot of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara, but it's been all Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. So it's not been good for Kamara. If you have him, you're probably starting him unless you like these guys in the chat who have banger squads and have the luxury of starting guys like Rashad White or Keenan Allen in the flex like Connor had earlier. So, but if you do have Kamara, like I do in one of my 11 leagues, I'm probably playing him. Just mentioned Juwan Johnson. He's been on fire lately. Andy Dalton loves him. So in the red zone, he's been a monster. So I really think he's the tight end one, not the tight end one, a tight end one these days. So I think if you have him, you can really play him. Then you have really only other guy I would say is Chris Olave. Landry got involved late last week, but thank you, wife, for vacuuming. Landry got involved late last week. You can maybe play him in the flex if he's active. He should be, but I probably wouldn't do that. So I am taking San Francisco to stay hot in this one and blow out the Saints. 2 games left. We got Philly, Green Bay Sunday night. Hopefully the Penguin. I like the question. We're getting a little college ball. The game's about to start. I got to get out of here in a minute. We got Ohio State versus Michigan today. This is a huge game. Huge implications on the college football playoffs. It's tough. I think I'm going to go with OSU, even though they don't have Travion Henderson or Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I think I'm going to go Ohio State in this one. This is a huge game. Joe is chipping in here. He's saying OSU. I agree, Joe. If it was in Michigan, I'd probably say Michigan, but I'm going Ohio State. So Philly, Green Bay, Romeo Doubs still out. Aaron Jones is really banged up. He's been questionable all week, but it seems like he's trending up. I think he's going to be active for this one. Maybe if only they had a giant running back that has been effective in the past, that is a beast that they could give carries to. And by that, I'm talking about A.J. Dillon, who has been one of the biggest fantasy busts this season, obviously. But it just doesn't make sense to me why they wouldn't just let Jones rest up and then feed A.J. Dillon. But they're just not going to do it. So if Jones is active, you're obviously playing him. You can't play A.J. Dillon if Jones is active. Christian Watson, I think he's hot, man. He's hot. The Packers are really starting to utilize him in the offense. This is a tough matchup with Philly, but I think you can put him in your flex if you want to trust it. And then on the Philly side, I guess I didn't talk about Rodgers. So I have a league where I have Fields, who I don't think is going to play, like I mentioned earlier. Rodgers, I think he's I think he's good for 20 points in this one. He's starting to play better. The Packers offense is starting to play better. So I think this game is like 27-24 Philly, but I think Rodgers throws in 2 to 3 touchdowns. On the Philly side, you're playing Hurts, you're playing A.J. Brown, you're playing Miles Sanders. You can play Devontae Smith in the flex, but that's it. Dallas Goedert is out, obviously. So I don't want to play either of the fill-in tight ends for Philly. I'm taking the Eagles in this game. Hopefully the Packers suck. Big game versus the Bears next week. That'll be an emotional preview next week. Last game. Colts versus Steelers. We got injury-wise, Jalen Warren is not practicing. I don't think he's going to play. It's not looking good. So Najee Harris has actually got going the last couple of weeks. I think you're starting him again if you have him. I was benching him in the league that I had him, but he's really starting to get rolling again. So Najee, you're playing him if you have him. You can play George Pickens in the flex if you want, but Stephon Gilmore has looked like his old self, and he's really been shutting down the top pass-catching options. So I would be kind of hesitant to play Pickens. Deontay Johnson, I'm not really interested in. He's just not that impressive to me, and he hasn't done anything. Colts side, you're playing Jonathan Taylor. You're playing Michael Pittman. Steelers have given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. So even if you have Paris Campbell, you can maybe play him sneaky. Maybe sneaky play. He was hurt, but he's going to play. Alec Pierce, too, is a flyer. Maybe if you're playing like a showdown in DFS, I could see him having a big play in this one. I'm taking the Colts in this game, the Jeff Saturday-led Colts. So that's it for the preview. I got another couple of questions in here I'll touch on before I log off. So, Chef, I love me a Chef. Should I trade Chase, Higbee, and Godwin for Chubb, DK, and Cooper? Chubb, DK, and Cooper. I guess I'd have to know. Okay, you're sending the rest here. Regarding the trade, I sent half PPR. My team is Jalen Hurts, Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, Godwin, Mixon, Stevenson, Pierce, Patterson, Jeff Wilson, Rashad White, Christian Kirk. You know what? Let me see this again. For Chubb, DK, and Cooper. So I personally prefer Jamar Chase and Godwin to DK and Cooper. And then Chubb is great, but I'm looking at your team, and you got Stevenson, Pierce, Jeff Wilson, Rashad White, who's coming on. Jeff Wilson's going to have a big week this week. I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would do this trade. I think you're getting Chubb back for really the Higbee. It's definitely a fair trade, but with your team right now, I have to imagine you have a pretty good record. Stevenson's been great, and we just saw Damian Harris get hurt. So I think you're pretty set. You're pretty loaded. So I think I would ride with that team into the playoffs. I think I would. There's your answer. Joe says, thanks for subscribing to Penguin. Penguin, appreciate the love, man. Come on back. Next week, give us some more likes and comments if I nailed the Ohio State pick. The Chef says, cool. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. I'm 6-4. Yeah, dude, you're good. You're good. I got a feeling you're going to make a playoff run. Those young running backs are coming on. So you got a good team. Stick with it. Joe says, Alec Pierce is in for a great week, a very sneaky week coming up. I like it, Joe. I added him in our league. So that's really all I had, guys. I wrapped this up in 45 minutes without the other talking heads on here. So we cruised right through. Besides me saying way too many times, I think it was an effective episode. If you want to ask me any more questions under my ugly face, you can see garbage_time FF. That's my Twitter handle. We are verified. We pay $8 a month, but we are verified, so we look official. So ask us some questions. Joe is on Instagram. Also, Joe runs our Garbage Time Instagram, and it's Garbage Time Fantasy Football on Instagram. Like I said, we have our website, garbagetimeff.com. So if you want to call us and yell at us, maybe I messed up one of those running back picks. Maybe Alvin Kamara has 30 points this week and I look like an idiot. Call us and tell us about it. We'd appreciate it. Last thing, just to remind everyone of the contest again. I know we had some viewers in here, so we have a signed Miles Sanders card that we are giving away. So to enter the contest, like and subscribe to this video. Go to Apple, give us a 5-star review, and write a comment on there that you are a part of the Heckling fandom, and your name will be thrown into the ring to win this contest and this card at the end of the season. Last thing, you know where to find us. If you're watching now, you see me on YouTube, like and subscribe. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us. Pandora, Simplecast, Iheartradio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us some love. I appreciate you all. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We will catch up with you early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, to go over these games, and then we'll get into the waiver wire on Tuesday or Monday. So much love, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.